If you could sell a house for $3-4 million and come and buy a nice house over here for $1 to $2 million and bank the other $2 million, financially it makes sense. And Tokyo's not such a bad place. Like, we've got some really nice beaches, we've got some really nice holiday spots. It's nice. So it makes sense for people who want to come over and actually enjoy their lives than run the rat race over in Melbourne.
And there's plenty of work
New
here.
South Wales.
There's plenty of work here.
Oh, yeah.
This is the Build Out West podcast with your host Tony Hyde from Evolution House and Land Specialists and Catherine Smith from Build Right Builder Brokers.
If you guys are looking to build in WA or simply curious to see what's going on in building, you guys are in the right place. We're here to give insight with professionals in the game, coming to give the inside scoop. Episodes are uploaded weekly, so don't worry, we don't skip a beat and you won't either. Like, share, subscribe, sit back, relax, and let's go.
Hello and welcome to the Build Out West podcast with your host Tony Hyde.
And Catherine Smith, good morning.
How are we all?
We are great, and we have a beautiful guest today.
Back again.
Beautiful, shining bright.
Has said that to me before.
He's going to shine all week now.
Well,
No, we had the beautiful Adam Burstein from Core Finance. Thanks for jumping on.
Thank you for the introduction. Thanks for having me on.
yeah, well, you know, you've had a couple now, so it's just that, you're getting almost a regular podcast. No, it's great. The stuff you're bringing on, you know, we broke down into kind of different avenues to discuss that, you know, finance. The building game is dry as it is, but the finance game can be a little drier, but it's so important if you get your head around it all and understand it can make your life and your life a hell of a lot easier, right? It's just understanding what you're going in and knowing what you may get told. You don't want to walk in there, and then you're disheartened. How many times have you done that? Clients walk away disheartened because you're like, we can't do what you want us to do, and
Yeah. And just jumping off that, I mean, the year 2024 has really, I guess, changed the whole Perth region in terms of median house pricing across the board. Pretty much every suburb has gone up at least 100,000, sometimes 200,000. We were just looking at the map the other day. And I thought, a good podcast topic to talk about is really now the Perth divide. Are we jumping on or are we jumping off? You know, we're getting feedback every day from people. They're going, should we wait? Is there a bubble? Or yes, let's do it now because the price is going to increase. Everyone has an opinion, but we'd love to hear your opinion, I guess, from a financial perspective, because we're probably talking to very similar clients and everyone has very similar feedback in how things are tracking for, I guess, 2025 and beyond, and where the Perth market's really going to be going. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for that. Look, I think from our perspective, what we've seen a lot of is people who had inquired a couple of years ago and they've been given a certain borrowing capacity.
Okay.
They've decided not to do it for one reason or another. They've now come back to the market and they're finding that their borrowing capacity is now a little bit lower. Their house price is a little bit higher, but they really want to now get in because they've seen what's happened from
reality check.
The paralysis of over-analysis and not actually taking the step to do it. Now they're finding they had this house that they had in mind and this is what they wanted all along and they were waiting for prices to drop and whatnot. They didn't. They've gone the other way. So that house is now out of reach and they're looking at other suburbs that weren't so desirable for them at the moment, but they're happy now to take that.
Yeah, people are waiting for this bubble to bust and it might bust, but it's not going to drop the prices of the houses. I don't think it's going to come. They're not going to miraculously drop down 100 grand. They just might be on the market for a bit longer, or you know, you pay $650, they're still going to be around about that mark. It might be more affordable. You might get more for your money, like it was like 10 years ago when it was at having hit 400 and it never really dropped back down. It stayed the prices. It just slowed the market, and that's what people have to understand.
I think this is now going. You know, the median house price now is about 778 as of today, but whether it will still be increasing, I don't know, but I would definitely say it's going to stabilize. I don't think it's going to decrease. I think it will just stabilize for the next couple of years. And I'm, to be honest, hoping that because it actually makes my life easier. It's extremely difficult where every month there's a new price. It's a new thing. It's a new, I guess, benchmark, if you will. Once things slow down, it's not going to reverse. It's just going to stagnate. And that's probably the message in that is 778 or let's say 800 is the new benchmark for an average home. It's not going to end up being 600. And I have this conversation all the time where people go, oh, I've got 600 grand. And I go, okay, but I need another 200. because that's where we're at now. Otherwise, we're going to Lakelands, and even that's $325 for a block. So I can't even do that for $600. Yeah. And it's really just whether you jump on or jump off is always going to be up to the client. But I feel like there's a lot of disappointed people that came in from 2022, 2023. And to be fair, it's valid because of COVID and the fear around that and the uncertainty of the market and the world at that time. To be fair, there was a lot of fear. There was a lot of noise, particularly with the government grants and how the construction industry as a whole dealt with it. But also at the same time, now they're feeling the pinch because of obviously the last 12 months have just completely skyrocketed.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people weren't expecting rent to climb at the rate that it did as well.
Yes.
So they're kind of in that, headspace, where we are already paying the money of what it would be to get into the mortgage. Why don't we try and now jump in?
Correct.
A lot of the times when people come to see me and they're like, when should we do it? When should we, what should we save more? Should we do this? Should we do that? It's always client specific. It's not something I can tell them what to do. It's always when they're ready. But at the end of the day, if these people or any people jump into buying a property, as soon as they buy it, no matter what, in 30 years, they will own that thing.
Yeah.
If they make the absolute minimum repayments. If they can pay it off quicker, even better. But if you wait longer and longer you wait, that 30-year term stretches and stretches and stretches. And you don't want it to be the point where you're 75, 80 years old when you're paying your house off.
That was kind of rule of thumb I tell clients without giving any financial advice is going, you're not going to lose on real estate if you stay in it long term. If you're trying to make a quick buck and flip it, unless you're a genius or like a real guru that knows where to buy, sell, hold and move, there's not many people make a lot of money from it unless you're really into it. It's quite hard to make decent money from flipping or buying early unless you're like one of these gurus, and certainly not me. But I just say to people, get in the market. If you can afford it and you've got the budget, get in and work it from there. Because unless you're not going to stay in a house for a year and move, are you going to be in there, first houses of 5 to 7 years? Enough just to get you some equity and then move on to the bigger place. So that's the kind of rule of thumb I try to tell the first home buyers. Don't build your forever home. Even if you build it now, you're probably not going to be there in 7 years' time. I guarantee you. You move, you want to do something different.
Maybe don't put yourself in that financial distress of trying to get the forever home.
Crazy,
as long as you get your foot in the door, you get used to having a mortgage. You get used to, the rates and whatnot that come with it, the repairs.
Used to go into Bunnings every weekend to buy stuff to do shit on your own.
But at the end of the day, these things may be there, but at the end of the day, it's yours.
Yeah. Yes.
You know what I mean? And that's a big thing because, moving to that retirement age and not having a property, that can be a real problem for people.
Yes.
Because with the way that rents are going and if you're not earning an income at the age of retirement, it's a problem.
People we're living longer. And we're living longer now as well. So therefore there's more people in the world and not as many houses and it's very demanding on it. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. Just take us off topic again.
That's all right. I think now the boom is almost, I would argue, a little bit artificial in a way. And I've had a few clients the last couple of weeks are saying, we're in a bubble, things have just escalated too quickly, right? I would say yes, but almost because of COVID, what happened essentially is we had our borders closed for 2 years. So the people that were organically supposed to be coming in due to immigration or visas or just interstate relocation, they weren't allowed to come. So they were almost on a little bit of a pause just due to the borders being closed for 2 years. Then when they opened, obviously there was a 2-year backlog of people coming in, right? And then there's the current people coming in that was organically supposed to come in at that time as well. But then I guess at the same time, WA looked really enticing, I guess, on the world market, being how they dealt with COVID and all the rest of it. So we actually have, I was looking at the stats, people coming in on visas from international where, we were actually getting like 7 or 8% more than where we were pre-COVID into WA because now over in Sydney and Melbourne, one, very expensive to go, very expensive to live. And they actually end up doing a lot more research and they're going, actually WA makes a lot more incentives economically to actually go into that market to say, go to Curtin Uni or whatever for the next couple of years. And we're getting actually almost, I think it was 8% more average after post-COVID for those sort of people as well. So we're actually getting oversupply based on those sort of things. And that's sort of, not this artificial bubble, but it's just this impact of the economy and what's happened around it.
if you do a quick search of the amount of people that are moving to WA or predicted to move over the next 10 to 14 to 20 years, it's hundreds of thousands of people. I kind of worked out, I think, and it might be wrong, but it was about 800,000 people in the next 14 years will move to Perth, WA.
Yes.
It's about 16,000 houses a year we still need to build, and we're on a bit of a backlog. So it's, I don't, and it might slow down when people go, there's not enough housing, but when we get on top of it in the land, because there's plenty of land coming. It's all out there. It's just not been developed quick enough for us.
So what is scary, Tony, is it was on average, we used to do 16,000 new home builds. They're now saying for forecasting, the government's come out and said we need 125,000 in the next 5 years, which ends up being 25,000 per.
Which is a stretch.
Right? It used to be 16, now it's 25,000. And that's a huge jump in the last couple of years of how much we actually need to do. We're still actually only doing 16,000. We need to do 25 over the next 5 years, right?
Yeah.
So they calculated we're going to be about 35,000 homes behind schedule, which of course keeps the price up because the demand is up.
Yeah.
And that's where, we really need to educate our viewers where people are like, oh, should I wait in the bubble, this and that? And I'm like, it's really just not going to happen. I think this is going to be the new normal. The median house price now, you're looking high sevens. That's where it's going to be. Whether it keeps increasing, I don't know, but it definitely won't be decreasing because there's no reason or sense for it to decrease. I hope it does stabilize, but I can't see it decreasing. What are your thoughts?
I don't think it's going to decrease either. Not with the amount of people coming over, the demand for housing, and also the fear of people missing out as well.
Yeah.
People are still wanting to buy. I'm not sure if you guys saw that on social media, they did have a guy made almost like a joke of the house that he was selling. He had a house in Gosnells. It was the cheapest house in Gosnells for $399,000. It was an absolute wreck. So obviously people have been squatting in there. The thing was an absolute teardown. He did this thing. It got huge hits on Facebook and Instagram and everything, but ended up selling for over $500,000.
Oh.
And that was the cheapest house in that area.
Wow.
So like if those type of homes are selling and they're willing to do the renovations and whatnot, to get it to a standard of someone can actually live in it.
We spent a whole episode on Gosnells and why we should invest in it, like a whole
because
episode.
of the rezoning there. So obviously that was more of a land banking issue. That house probably wasn't habitable, to be fair. And obviously the rezoning would have been an R60 or something and would have made sense to do it.
$700K and you got
I sold my Gosnells house a little bit too early, I think, but I got burnt by it being a meth lab. So that's a story for another topic. But
in the same house.
Could have been, but anyway, good times.
But
yes.
like on top of that, it makes sense for people to be coming over to WA.
Yes.
Like if you look at what houses are going for over east, if you could sell a house for, I don't know, $3-4 million and come and buy a nice house over here for $1 to $2 million and bank the other $2 million, financially it makes sense. And WA's not such a bad place. Like we've got some really nice beaches, we've got some really nice holiday spots. It's nice. So it makes sense for people to want to come over and actually enjoy their lives than run the rat race over in Melbourne.
And there's plenty of work
New
here.
South Wales.
There's plenty of work here.
Oh yeah.
If you're a tradie half decent, you could clean up out here. I tell a lot of my mates back in Scotland, go, get yourself out of the brickies, chippies, get out of there and come over here and you'll kill it. You don't understand how you'll kill it.
Sydney's on a whole other level though in terms of their cost of living. I was out on a Thursday night in Sydney and I got into an Uber and the guy was 40 years old, married with 2 kids, and this was like 2 a.m. on a Thursday. And he goes, I got to go to work in the morning. And I said, what do you do? As your day job. And from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, he's a pharmacist.
Oh,
and evenings, and I'm talking 2 a.m. on a Thursday, he's Ubering. And he basically said his mortgage is so high that he has to do that now because of the interest rates and to, I guess, keep a roof over his family's head. And it really gave me a reality check coming from Perth, because he's a guy who did everything right. He went to uni, he got his education, he's got a proper occupation, all the rest of it, and he still can't make ends meet just being, a family man. And it was quite sad, to be honest. But I guess we are so far away from that. We don't actually see the way that people are really struggling in terms of the cost of living there. And that's where the divide is now starting to happen in Perth. It is definitely not as extreme as Sydney, but it gave me a reality check. Now, I do deal with a lot of Sydney investors and they're a little bit more gung-ho about getting things. They're like, get me 6, get me this, do this, And the reason being, and I always say, is we're almost like 25 years behind Sydney. they have seen what's happened in the last 25 years in Sydney, and the people that bought in the 80s and 90s for $200,000-300,000 are now sitting on, $3 million plus properties. And these people are just very normal teachers and, accountants and whatever, but they happen to make their wealth in the real estate. So they're the ones who are like, oh my gosh, I got all this equity. I can see where Perth's going. They're just 25 years behind. So I'm going to jump on that because I wish I did that back in Sydney, back in the 90s, And then interestingly enough, the Perth market I actually find is more risk adverse, more conservative, more cautious because they haven't seen what's going to happen.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I think that's bang on, to be honest.
Oh, thank you. Let's make that a reel.
It's always, if you've been through it before, you
can
to
see
expect.
It's a forecasting, and people can get a bit short-sighted, but with real estate, it's about building wealth, and that can take 20, 30 years, okay? And you have to be okay with that, right? But they've seen it and they've lived it because, I was talking to another guy on the plane and he was just a normal, worked for the local council, bought a duplex for $280,000 in 2002. It's now worth 3.3, and he's going to sell it, moved up into Noosa for, $2 and give the rest to his daughter who's going to live in Sydney. And she's a personal trainer, and there's no way she could get a $3 million house, but she got it through her wealth of her parents that just happened to get lucky in a way and get the right thing at the right time.
I've got quite a few mates from the western suburbs, like Penrith, Parramatta kind of way, and they live here now. And my mate was telling me that, he was trying, this was about 3 years ago, he was trying to buy a house in the Riff, and it was $850, $900 for like a 3x2.
Yeah.
And he's bought in Secret Harbour, pool, spa, big 4x2 for half the price. And he's like, the people, normal jobs, can't even afford to live in Penrith.
Yeah.
And not that Penrith's a bad place because I'm a massive fan and, floor paint and all that, but it's hard, right? Like, you can see it, like, and that's how much Penrith, the Panthers put so much back into the community there with the Panthers Club and all the stuff. But you just can't afford to stay there. You just can't afford to buy anything.
Yes.
Well, imagine being a first home buyer.
Yeah, that's
what if you're, 1.2, 1.4 million to get in.
Yeah. I think the median in Perth, correct me if I'm wrong, is about 1.25 now in Sydney.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So our 780 is not looking too shabby.
You're talking about Mount Druitt and all these places out there, and there'll be suburbs like we've got here as well, that are low economic. How are these people supposed to get on the market?
Yeah.
And if it's $800,000 for a house,
If they do, think of the repayments. Like, you get $9,000, $10,000 a month.
Yeah.
So, even borrowing the money's hard, but the deposit's harder.
Yeah.
I've seen it make it $300,000 a year just to cover your payments and live.
Yes.
And you're not living in Penrith if you're making that money, let's be honest, right?
Yeah. So I think probably my message today is if you are looking at jumping on or jumping off, it's up to you what you want to do, but I think it's almost going to be the start of the wealth divide in Perth, which is we've never had before. And I think there's definitely a movement the last couple of years of us being more of a big town and moving to a proper city, and obviously this will take time, another 10, 15 years to really be more of that kind of city, but it's the start of that movement and it's your choice now whether you join or don't.
It's happening because they're setting up the hubs. We've spoken about this. They've got the Joondalup hub. They've got the Colburn hub.
Yes.
Probably Ellenbrook would be starting to get a hub there. Byford, Rockingham, and down Mandurah. You're starting to see them all pop up now, and that just tells you we are growing if we've got to have, these sort of things in there. So I can see that happening, and it's going to be crazy. I don't think it's going to slow down. It might slow, but it's not going to stop. Prices aren't going to come down.
Hopefully stagnates just to help people and give a little bit of breathing space, and gives a little people, what's the word? Like
hope.
The new normal, just adjusting to the new normal, I think is probably the thing.
Can actually work towards without it slowly creeping out of reach.
Yes.
Every time.
The disappointment of that. Yeah. Just reality check.
To your economy point, I've noticed that we do have a lot more people coming back using the equity from the property they bought previously to purchase investments. But the problem is the people now who are coming to try and buy a property can't afford it. So it is creating that divide where these people can have multiple homes, and there's always going to be someone who will rent it because they can't actually make that jump from renter to homeowner.
Yeah.
And it's making it harder and harder as the property prices increase. So
and it's going to remain, right? It's always going to be there. As long as people are renting, people will buy investment properties.
Yeah.
That's the way it's going to be.
Yeah. All right. Interesting topic, interesting thoughts. Thanks for jumping on, Adam.
No problem. Thanks for having me once again.
As always, I'm sure we'll have you on more and more as we go, mate, and be the regular third person on the coast.
Guru, you know.
But like, as always, everyone, if you like, share, follow, comment, tell us what you want to hear. We're happy to talk about it. But thanks very much.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
This is the Build Out West podcast with your host Tony Hyde from Evolution House and Lawn Specialists and Catherine Smith from Build Bright Builder Brokers.
If you guys are looking to build in WA or simply curious to see what's going on in building, you guys are in the right place. We're here to give insight with professionals in the game, coming to give the inside scoop. Episodes are uploaded weekly, so don't worry, we don't skip a beat and you won't either. Like, share, subscribe, sit back, relax, and let's go.